The Cranarium anomaly. Professor Alistair Fairbanks adjusted his spectacles. The flickering gaslight at his workshop cast in elongated shadows across the intricate clockwork mechanisms that dominated the room. Rain lashed against the leaded windows, mirroring the tempest brewing within him. For months, he's been chasing a phantom, the temporal distortion detected by his newly calibrated Cranarium, a device capable of measuring subtle fluctuations in the space-time continuum. Tonight, it seemed, the phantom was about to materialize. Readings are spiking. Professor Beatrice Holloway is young and exceptionally bright assistant announced, her voice tight with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. She pointed to the Cranarium's needle, which was vibrating wildly against the anomaly marker. Fairbanks nodded grimly. The intensity is unprecedented. The localized distortion is centered on the abandoned Blackwood Manor. Remarkable, and deeply concerning. Blackwood Manor, a place steeped in local legend. Stories of strange experiments, vanished residents, and an unsettling aura of dread had kept the townsfolk of Ashworth away for decades. Fairbanks, however, was a scientist, not a superstitious villager. The Cranarium didn't lie. He donned a thick, canvas overcoat and a sturdy pair of boots. "Prepare the temporal stabilizers, Beatrice. We're going in." A man loomed against the stormy sky, a silhouette of decaying grandeur. The wrought iron gates hung open, as if beckoning them forward. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of damp earth and something subtly metallic and unsettling. The manor's interior was even more desolate than the exterior suggested. Dust lay thick on the ornate furniture, cobwebs draped like macabre decorations, and the chilling silence hung in the air. "The Cranarium's readings are strongest in the east wing," Beatrice murmured, consulting her own device. They cautiously made their way through the darkened hallways, the beam of their lanterns cutting through the gloom. In a large laboratory, they found the source of the anomaly. A bizarre device dominated the room, a chaotic assemblage of vacuum tubes, copper coils, and what appeared to be a repurposed church organ. A faint blue glow emanated from its core. "What in the name of Newton is that?" Beatrice breathed, her voice echoing in the cavernous room. "An attempt at temporal displacement, undoubtedly," Fairbanks replied, his eyes scanning the device's complex wiring. "Crude, dangerous, and remarkably similar to the designs of Dr. Thaddeus Blackwood." Dr. Thaddeus Blackwood, the manor's former resident and a man whose name was synonymous with scientific scandal. Rumored to have been obsessed with unraveling the secrets of time, Blackwood had vanished without a trace in 1932, leaving behind a legacy of whispered accusations and unresolved mysteries. Suddenly, the device sputtered and whirred, the blue glow intensifying. A shimmering distortion rippled across the air, and a figure materialized within the room. He was tall and gaunt, dressed in a tweed suit and sporting a wild, unkempt beard. He looked disoriented and confused. Where am I?" the man stammered, his eyes darting around the laboratory. "You are in Blackwood Manor, sir," Fairbanks replied cautiously, "and judging by your attire, you appear to be a visitor from another time." The man's eyes widened in recognition. "Thaddeus Blackwood," he mumbled, his voice raspy. "But I was just—" he trailed off, clearly struggling to comprehend his surroundings. "It appears your device has worked, Doctor," Fairbanks said, gesturing to the time machine. "You have successfully, albeit unintentionally, bridged the temporal divide." Blackwood looked at the device with a mixture of triumph and horror. "But the calculations I hadn't accounted for." He cut himself off with a groan of pain. He began to glitch, his form flickering as if a faulty projection. "The temporal matrix is unstable," Beatrice cried, pointing at the Cranarium. "He's pulling the anomaly with him. The entire manor is about to phase out of our timeline." Fairbanks realized the gravity of the situation. Blackwood's arrival had created a cascading temporal instability. If they didn't act quickly, the manor, and potentially the surrounding area, would be erased from existence. "We need to stabilize the anomaly before it collapses," Fairbanks barked. "Beatrice, prepare a counter-frequency pulse. I'm going to try an interface with Blackwood's machine and manually reset the temporal lock." Working with frantic precision, Beatrice began calibrating the temporal stabilizers while Fairbanks cautiously approached Blackwood's device. He began analyzing the complex wiring, searching for the point of instability. "The resonant frequency is oscillating wildly. I can't isolate the core," he shouted over the rising hum of the machine. Suddenly, the floor began to tremble, the walls shimmered, and objects began to float in the air. A swirling vortex of temporal energy formed around Blackwood, threatening to tear him apart. On attempting a manual override, Fairbanks yelled, his fingers flying across the control panel. "But the system is incredibly volatile." Blackwood's form began to solidify, and he seemed to regain some degree of lucidity. He looked at Fairbanks with a desperate plea in his eyes. "Stop it," he gasped. "You don't understand. I was trying to prevent something far worse than this. Prevent what? Fairbanks pressed, his eyes locked on the flickering temporal vortex. The fracture? Blackwood exclaimed, his voice strained. A tear in the fabric of time itself. It's coming. I tried to shield this timeline, but I failed. Before Fairbanks could question him further, a blinding flash of light engulfed the room. When it subsided, Blackwood was gone, seemingly absorbed by the temporal anomaly. The device sputtered and fell silent. The tremors ceased, and the shimmering subsided. The manor settled back into its decaying stillness. What just happened? Beatrice asked, her voice trembling. Fairbanks stared at the silent machine, his mind reeling from Blackwood's warning. He was trying to prevent something far worse than what we just experienced, he murmured. Something called the fracture. The cranarium's needle, after a final shudder, slowly returned to zero. With a new reading, faint but distinct, appeared on the device's auxiliary display. A localized temporal distortion, located in the heart of Ashworth's town square. Professor, Beatrice said, her voice filled with apprehension. I'm detecting another anomaly. It's growing. Fairbanks looked at her, his face grim. The immediate crisis had been averted, but a new, far more ominous threat had emerged. Blackwood's words echoed in his mind. You don't understand. I was trying to prevent something far worse than this. He knew that Blackwood's warnings were not merely the ramblings of a mad scientist. He had glimpsed the edge of a darkness that threatened to unravel the very fabric of time, and he knew with a chilling certainty that their work was far from over. As he turned towards the town square, a single thought consumed him. What has Blackwood unleashed?